Yes, I see a better world possible. One forged from shadow and flame. So this trustworthy fellow is named Alex Karp. And that little ball you see him holding his hand over is called Palantir. An all-seeing creation of the Dark Lord and Big Brother, aka Peter Thiel. You probably thought I was going to say Sauron. And you know what, that's not even really an exaggeration. The real creator of Palantir in the books is Sauron. But according to Peter Thiel's biographer Max Chafkin, Peter's love for a book called The Last Ring Bearer, where Sauron is the hero. And as Chafkin puts it, Peter Thiel wants to become the all-seeing eye. Like, surely no one's this on the nose, right? It's like sitting down for an interview with Darth Vader and asking him, say, man, what are your inspirations? Like, who's inspired you? Like, who are your heroes? Well, Palpatine, of course, and Darth Sidious. Oh, and don't forget Count Dooku. Shout out to the Count. Shout out to the Count. One can only assume that's the inspiration for why Thiel created the real company Palantir. Like, literally bringing a creation of the Dark Lord into the real world. Sweet. And then for him to go and leave it in the care of his wise crony, Alex Karp. Now, speaking of which, many people might remember back in April when Karp posted a manifesto on Palantir's Twitter page. A list of 22 declarations summarized down from his book, because no one read it. It's just kind of weird how these guys and a lot of the people in their orbit are getting kind of super villainy, right? Trump's been saying even crazier crap than usual since Musk started hanging on him like worm tongue. By the way, you're probably not going to really understand this video well unless you watched Lord of the Rings. Anyways, the way all these top political figures are going mad with power, I can only assume the news is going to come out tomorrow. This just in, the one true ring has been found in the custody of a little person, caught attempting to place it in Old Faithful in order to, quote, put a stop to the emergence of the Dark Lord of Darkness, end quote. But I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I like to think that the people in charge are where they are because they know better. So what could possibly justify this? Are they being supervillains ironically? Now, in case you don't know who these people are, Peter Thiel is one of the 100 richest men in the world. He was born in Germany, raised largely abroad before settling in the US around 10 years old. As you might be able to tell from the names of every company or group he starts, he's a super fan of Lord of the Rings, the Thiel Fellowship, Mithril Capital, Valar Ventures, Lembus. I mean, it's a shame these more admirably named companies aren't his crowning achievements, but that's just the world, I guess. Can't have good things. He went on to law school at Stanford, where he met Alex Karp, who would eventually gain his doctorate in philosophy from Goethe University Frankfurt. It could be argued that he's partially responsible, or even largely responsible, for creating Elon Musk. Around Thiel's 30s, he helped kickstart PayPal and acquired Musk's website, the original X.com. Now, he acquired Musk's website to create, and don't get it mixed up, this is the original. He used it for processing transactions on Palm Pilots. Now, Thiel acquired Musk's website in order to create a financial service backbone for PayPal. And I imagine that kind of stung a little bit, because that's Musk's darling website. That's why he turned Twitter into X.com in the first place, to bring back his vision. And only for that to get co-opted and jammed into the back end of PayPal. But anyways, no more than a year after PayPal's IPO in 2002, Thiel co-founded Palantir Technologies with Alex Karp himself, and a few others, and since then he's been involved with just about everything. Facebook, Quora, Reddit, the whole Gawker fiasco, putting them out of business, Founders Fund, Pronomos Capital, Epstein, and on and on. Like, honestly, this guy just doesn't stop moving. Like, maybe to the detriment of the world, I don't know. And even though he's only currently the chief board member of Palantir, it wasn't until he provided his support and rallied Musk's support to Trump's second presidency that significant military deals helped Palantir to really pop off. It was around that time that everybody really started paying attention to Palantir. And here's the thing, though. It's almost sad. Thiel genuinely loves Lord of the Rings, right? But The Lord of the Rings is, at its core, a story about renouncing power, and about how the only way to win is to throw the ring into the fire, and how everyone who tries to wield it for good gets eaten alive. That's the moral of the story, the entire point. You can't build a global surveillance empire and also be the hero of that story. The math ain't mathin'. It's just not computing. So somewhere along the line, he found this book called The Last Ring Bearer, like I mentioned earlier, written by a Russian author that retells the whole story from Mordor's side. Talk about revisionism, huh? In this version, Sauron's realm is a misunderstood beacon of science and progress, and the elves and Gandalf are the Antichrist. I mean, they're reactionary fanatics trying to strangle the future. And all of a sudden, the math does work. Suddenly you get to keep the aesthetic you love and be the quote-unquote good guy of the story. And you get to build the all-seeing eye. Cool, huh? He didn't have to pick a new story. It all just came together for him. Found a way to keep his favorite story by becoming its misunderstood villain. He's just misunderstood. Sauron did nothing wrong, am I right? Oh my God. As for Teal's beliefs, he's kind of a Renaissance man. He enjoys talking about politics, philosophy, religion, history. I mean, most people probably heard about him from his lectures on the Antichrist. Even though he's a certified lizard man, like a bona fide skinwalker, he professes to be a Christian and claims to be upset by globalization. Like even in his emails with Epstein, by the way, they've got a lot of emails. They've got a lot of emails. Like 500 emails directly between the two of them, 2,000, like at least group chats that they were all together in. That's more emails than I've gotten from Allegiant. I flew with Allegiant a couple of years ago. I've gotten like a new email every day. They intentionally interacted more than Allegiant has sent me spam emails. Anyways, but just to say, even in his emails with Epstein, they talk about the end of globalization, going back to tribalism. Yeah, I want to go back to tribalism where Peter Thiel is the chief of my tribe. That would be so cool. And that's just rich. Two stateless sociopaths talking about bringing an end to globalization. I mean, how selfless of them. Working against their self-interest like that? What a couple of saints. Always going to visit him on his island. I'm sure they were just just baptizing children there, right? Surely. I mean, just to clarify, Thiel was sure to make sure that there at least was no evidence of him visiting the island. But they did visit each other a lot. Like sidebar here. In one of the first emails between, well, actually it was kind of like as Epstein's reputation was getting kind of dicey. Epstein asked Thiel, he's like, does my reputation bother you? Like, I hope my reputation isn't bugging you. And Thiel's like, oh yeah, no, it's just the cost of doing business. It doesn't bother me at all. If bad reputations were enough to scare me away, then I wouldn't be able to make it far in this business. He knew the whole time. But he still intentionally got in cahoots with Epstein. There's no redeeming it. But moving on, like when people are looking at figures of power like Thiel and Musk and Trump, we keep throwing around terms like the fog of war. That's one of Musk's favorites. And 4D chess. Supposing that what inspires these people is beyond our understanding. So let's try to delve into the incomprehensible and conspiratorial, the little Twilight Zone-y. But bear with me here, because this is not sane, right? Just to clarify that these two ideas are still probably the only consistent ways to justify their mentalities, but also not sane.
The law of paradoxical intent states that the more desperate you are to achieve a certain goal, the more your urgent, needy energy will sabotage the results and push them away.
So last April, after Elon was done stealing all of our IRS info and stealing our taxpayer dollars in the name of making the government more efficient, with his literal meme of a department, he tweeted, "Any government institution is most likely to be the opposite of its name." Now suppose that he's stealing from us for the greater good, for our sake he's stealing our money. Now, and just putting that aside, right? Maybe him and all of his PayPal Silicon Valley bro friends, the 5D chess game they're playing is that some paradox of human nature, everything we create serves to do the opposite of what anyone names our creations to do. Like that this secret nature of reality that they're only privy to. That's what we're failing to understand. So it's just like in 1984 when the Ministry of Plenty brought about starvation and poverty. The Ministry of Peace brought about war. Yeah, etc., etc. Suppose that they all take this idea so seriously, or that they just know it's true, that they all collectively decided to name their companies and departments in such a way to counteract this paradoxical force. See, that's why all of Teal's other ventures failed. He was naming them after the good things in Lord of the Rings. He had to name them after the bad ones to succeed. And the reason Teal named his company Palantir and he put it aside is because it would inevitably become a force against mass surveillance. And that's why Trump renamed the Department of Peace to the Department of War, because by doing so, we would be bringing peace by causing the department to do the opposite of what it's named to do. Mind blown. This is totally legit and real. But that's unfortunate though, because by that same token, wouldn't that mean that the Doge is literally trying to create more inefficiency in the American government? Strange. It's almost like he's trying to destroy our government. Making out like bandits. And reality flies in the face of this crackpot theory because immediately after our Department of War got its new name, of course, we went to war, as you might have noticed. The most egregious war, not so good. That's the best I got. That's the best of it. Okay. Oh yeah, and another one of their supervillain friends, Palmer Luckey, named their company Anduril, making weapons just like the name suggests. Anduril is the legendary powerful sword from Lord of the Rings, if you didn't know. So if this can't justify what they're doing, going around like supervillains for, well, maybe this next idea can.
Kayfabe, the system of stratified lies that professional wrestling is undergirded by.
In wrestling terms, a good story, a really good fight, needs a face and a heel. Wrestlers kind of go up and down in their careers. Like for a few years, maybe they'll be a face, a recognizable good guy like John Cena, the face for the company, hence face. And then they pivot to be a heel as a plot twist, like a fall from grace or being corrupted by power. And maybe all these powerful figures are collectively working together, merely acting evil to inspire more righteous people and principled people to stand up and participate in the world at large. It's all an act. Once you finally make it, once you're finally a millionaire, and you improve yourself and stand against them, then the veil falls and it reveals that it was all just an act. And you can join the fold of these powerful heroes of the modern world. Because nobody wants to be evil, right? Yeah. Nobody wants to be evil. The real evil people are the ones that don't play along and get too serious about things. Yeah, the good guys, they were just molesting people on that island as an act. Oh, wait. Damn it, now this idea is falling apart too. Frick. Maybe a better way of getting at what's actually going through these people's minds, we can look at Karp's manifesto. In Declaration 9 of his big old manifesto, he says, we should show more grace and be more charitable to people who have subjected themselves to public life. In the words of a different supervillain, how about no? Even entertaining these goofy conspiracy theories from before, to the extent that I did, gets my head spinning. I have no loyalty to these men, and the way that the media tries to force these monsters on us makes me sick. Maybe it's just my algorithm, because I don't feel safe taking my eyes off all these freaks, but YouTube and all the other platforms keep showing me clips of Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan having conversations with these guys. So after seeing emails between Epstein and Thiel talking about investing in each other, looking for ways to profit from things that are on their way to collapse, and coyly talking about each other's reputations. And Thiel was trying to advise Epstein on how to rehabilitate his image. I'm trying not to get too upset about it. I hear from a lot of my friends and family on the right about how bad the media is when right-leaning media introduces and inserts these creeps into our lives too. Tries to make us comfortable with them. Tries to make us build a sense of loyalty or admiration for them. So we fight their battles for them. I can't stand it. I hope that everyone would agree that even the left does this too. It doesn't matter which side. It's a problem. What I'm literally trying to do with this channel is to make myself a public figure. Like, this is just my perspective. But whatever benefits that a public life would afford me should come or would come at the cost of my transparency. A certain cut into my privacy. Like, that's how it should be. A price must be paid for success. You have to pay for the cost of the opportunity. You can't just have your cake and eat it too. Like, this is the corrupting one ring of power that we're talking about here. In the real world.
Single enterprise in this country, in private, a lot of them don't want to speak in public because it gets outsourced to the neurodivergent crazy person that apparently is on drugs. The one thing I don't do.
Sound pretty angry.
No, this is the voice of American business that is being channeled through me. The American enterprises are run by the shrewdest, most wily intelligent people on the planet. Of course they can't understand it. Like, they attack Palantir for the craziest. China doesn't have that problem.
Money is the root of all evil. Everyone knows this. Everyone knows how corrupting power is. People that are confused and they're like, you know what? Trump's really changed lately. Power corrupts. The more power you have, everybody knows this. No one is immune. And the only real way to counteract it, the only antidote, is to keep your eye on it. You have to use your power against theirs. You have to buttress your ambition and your self-interest against theirs so they don't crush you. Again, use your power against them when they're working against everyone's best interests. But anyway, frankly, it only seems like 6D chess when you don't look at it too closely. To go back to the original question of, are they doing this ironically? Well, yeah. Of course they're being ironic. But the test of irony is whether the observable behavior differs from sincerity. Does it? Well, maybe if you're not convinced, it would help to read a little bit more deeply into exactly what they're saying. Besides, I'm tired of guessing with these nebulous, shadowy creeps' intentions. The good thing about a manifesto, if anything, is that it removes the ambiguity. Remember that even though this is coming from Karp, Thiel is still chief board member of the company, and at least tacitly supports what Karp says here. Now, I think there might be a bit of a problem lately with information getting reprocessed, so I feel like I should read some of these word for word so that no one thinks I'm being unfair or biased. As Karp says in point number 15, quote, "The post-war neutering of Germany and Japan must be undone. The defanging of Germany was an overcorrection for which Europe is now paying a heavy price." Sit with that, please. Pause the video if you must, and a reminder that Karp and Thiel both have ties to Germany. The reason Germany and Japan were quote-unquote defanged, the reason their post-war institutions were built around pacifism, it isn't a mystery. It's not some historical anomaly, right? What's really weird about this entry is that Japan's constitution denies them the right to war, and they only have a defense force, like a self-defense force in place of a military. Germany has a military though. That's the weird thing. So why is he saying this? It seems like the real problem for Karp is that Germany's military isn't willing to implement invasive surveillance and targeting platforms like Palantir, like America has. Like the proctor of his company specifically. In his book, what he really thinks would aid in future wars is for big countries like Japan and Germany to have all the same bells and whistles as America. Yeah, no conflict of interest there, huh? He wouldn't stand to benefit from this. Yeah, he wouldn't stand to gain anything from that. Neither him nor his friends, huh? But anyways, here's the CEO of a $60 billion defense contractor in a document meant to improve his company's standing, choosing to gloss over the horrors of World War II by calling our crackdown on fascism an overreaction. This wasn't in a leaked email either. It wasn't caught on a hot mic. Point 15 of 22 on a pinned post on the social platform of his salute happy friend Elon, who he also defends in another point, saying like, guys, you guys are being really mean to my friend Elon. Ay caramba. Now I want to read another point real quick. Number 6, quote, national service should be a universal duty. We should, as a society, seriously consider moving away from an all-volunteer force and only fight the next war if everyone shares in the risk and cost. Which society are you talking about, dude? We don't want that here. Just to spell it out, this is tough guy war prep rhetoric. I know we're in a war already, but he's prepping for a bigger one. And yeah, check out how quickly people in the replies decoded it. Karp has personally said that he thinks the US will end up in a 3-front war against China, Iran, and Russia. And then he posts this. He wants to skyrocket the value of his company by 3-fold by using it to juice up Germany's and Japan's militaries. And he wants your kids, and maybe even you, to forget any bad blood or reservations that might still remain over the last World War, as he sends you, your friends and family off to fight in the finale of the trilogy. Wow. You know, this guy doesn't even have any kids. He's too old to be drafted, and he would make a killing off the war. The audacity of this, the audacity of it, and the timing of it too. All the points in his manifesto are condensed down from the book that he wrote with Nicholas Zamiska last year in 2025, before we went to war. Back when the only hint of us going to war was all the messaging on Fox News and such. But then after 2 months of the war in Iran, a war his company stands to profit from directly, a war that he's deeply within the circle of people who have made the decisions to do so, right? He has sat in board meetings with Donald Trump. He has friends with all of the other contractors, and he knows people in the military. It's not too far of a cry to say that he might have had a hand in this decision. And then he decides to make even more of a point of these thoughts publicly after we go to war. The book didn't have an impact, so he thought that he could rally everyone together, hype everyone up, to take things even further, ramp it up by riding the wave of current events. I don't know if he thought everybody was just going to go wild for this, but no, like I mentioned earlier, what might be even more chilling than the war talk comes from points 9, 18, and 19. So I'll just read them in a row. 9, quote, we should show far more grace towards those who have subjected themselves to public life. 18, the ruthless exposure of the private lives of public figures drives far too much talent away from government service. 19, those who say nothing wrong often say nothing much at all. The argument he's basically making is that powerful people are being too scrutinized, and we should show them more forgiveness, like these poor billionaires, poor guys. We should give them more opportunities to be making backdoor deals, more opportunities to be making secret meetings on little islands or in foreign countries, more opportunities to be making secret meetings, opportunities to be embezzling money, just like what happened in Minnesota or the poly market bets. Like, the government's got to work just so much better when we're not keeping our eye on things. Like, just trust Big Bro. The party's got things handled. We're being too harsh and too insistent on holding people in power accountable. If they're not doing shady, corrupt stuff in the background, they're just not doing much at all, as he would say. And all of this comes after point 8. Public servants need not be our priests. Any business that compensated its employees in the way that the federal government compensates public servants would struggle to survive. I mean, which one is it? If they're not our priests, we need to be holding them accountable. They needed proper scrutiny. And you are among our public servants. And like more than that, yes, surely our taxpayer dollars would be spent so much more efficiently by millionaire politicians with no oversight. Surely they'll just take pay cuts and they'll just be better when we're not watching them. You know, the reason they're behaving poorly in the first place is because we're watching them too closely. Yeah, the reason they have these weird parties and they meet on these weird islands is because they're being watched too closely. Oh yeah, okay. And if we pay them less, leave them to their own devices more, and just graciously accept their nasty, selfish nature, surely corruption will evaporate. I think that's what he's getting at, right? Even though he's by and large a fixture of the federal government. This is all very much ignoring the fact how much money is wasted on his Skynet-esque company. Anyways, all it really amounts to is, wah wah, give me more room to move in the shadows. You guys should be getting scrutinized way more. And leave me to my scheming, and you guys should be a lot nicer to me about my spying on you. I'm one of the good guys, you know. We're the good guys. And by the way, this is all published by a company whose entire product, their material product, is selling the ruthless exposure of the private lives of people who are not powerful. Us. Palantir builds surveillance. Palantir builds the targeting, the software that watches you down to the metadata. And here, this manifesto plays to American citizens about how these few, rich and powerful, deserve grace, privacy, and room to make more backdoor deals without the petty public asking questions. Juxtapose that with how much taxpayer money is invested in them, and how they're asking us to give our lives in a brand new worldwide conflict for their bottom line. Total transparency and more for you, grace, freedom, and trillions of dollars for them. That isn't some contradiction that just slipped through. This is a stereotypical supervillain monologue. He's giving us the Farquaad treatment. So that's what he wrote, but here's what you probably read. When his manifesto hit the news, the search engines might have summarized it for you, or your news media might have dampened the rhetoric, where Karp said in point 15, the post-war neutering of Germany and Japan must be undone. You might have heard it secondhand as, allies that we've made since World War II deserve military improvements. The mention of the Axis powers vanishes, the dogmatic rhetoric vanishes. Just for an example, when I looked up his manifesto on Google, the AI search engine, which I still don't know how to turn off, reduced all of his military points into one sentence. And if I hadn't been spending so much time to look more deeply into all this, I, like many people, wouldn't have the faintest clue of all the implications of what he's getting at. Like, this is the part people miss. The radicalism doesn't have to be hidden, really. It just has to be processed. A little thing called mediation. Somewhere between his book to his pinned post to your morning feed, changing, it changes all depending on your algorithm. We should show far more grace towards those who subjected themselves to public life becomes, cancel culture has gone too far, or Karp shares his beliefs on how to get more people into politics. And you might nod and scroll, or your opinion of him might even improve. Because of what a rat race the internet and current events have become, a manifesto like this doesn't have to be leaked or exposed. It can be proudly published, nailed to the door of the church, if you will. All the mechanisms of our media ecosystem, sand it down, making it smooth enough to swallow. Which brings me to an observation in this pylon that I think really matters. Buried deeply in the are you good? Dog, are you good? Are you good, dog? Oh. Which brings me to an observation in this pylon that I think really matters. Buried deep in the replies, someone named Jamie Felice said, the disturbing thing isn't that any single point is indefensible. Some of them are defensible. The disturbing thing is that a major publicly traded defense contractor feels comfortable publishing a pro-war manifesto based on his political ideology as corporate messaging and expects it to improve his company's standing. That's a signal about the Overton window, not about Palantir, exactly. 5 years ago, this would be a scandal. Today, it's a pinned post. But somehow already yesterday's news. And just to explain what the Overton window is real quick, the Overton window is a range of ideas and topics and ways of conducting oneself that people generally find politically acceptable at any given moment. It's kind of like a bell curve of acceptability, a range of acceptability at the given moment in public discourse. And it can be categorized from the categories being unthinkable, radical, acceptable, sensible, popular, and policy. Those are the 6 categories. If you watch the show The Boys, maybe it would help to use that as an example of the Overton window. Notice how when Homelander started declaring himself as God in this newest season, the first time he said it, it hit like a ton of bricks because of how unacceptable and unthinkable it is. Really taking the farcical nature of the show to its limits, but how quickly the show moves on and glosses over it, and all the characters around him just go about their lives as usual, making his insanity into reality. How quickly the insanity starts sounding normal. There are plenty of insane ideas being tossed around casually by real political figures, suggesting the unthinkable as a joke, so that a workable amount of Americans can become programmed, convinced to consider the ideas acceptable. Trump keeps posting AI pictures of himself as Pope, like a bodybuilder, and recently, Jesus. The thought process behind these posts is unthinkable. So when he jokes about ripping up the 22nd Amendment to run for a third term, it's only radical in comparison. Some people might even think acceptable, which I find unacceptable. And maybe that's the strategy behind the supervillains, to relentlessly joke about the unthinkable as a way of forcing the Overton window in their direction. When the people in charge are going mad with power and allowed to move too quickly for anyone to stop them, the unthinkable will quickly become policy, maybe without us even noticing. And that's the whole thing. The irony of it doesn't really matter, because there's no question that they're villains. The question is why being one out loud is now a growth strategy. Okay, I promised you we'd come back to the irony, but really quick, I wanted to talk about an idea called post-irony. So plain irony is, I don't mean it. Post-irony is when you do mean it, but you keep the joke wrapper, so no one can make you answer for it. It's used in other ways to less evil effect, but generally it lets you say whatever you want, so nobody can make you answer for it. It's that somersault between sincere and ironic ideas all mixed together. It's a strobe-like way of hiding and communicating your intentions at the same time. And that's the honest answer to our question. Are they being ironic? Yeah, but you can see the sincere thing underneath. The manifesto isn't a joke. The contracts aren't a joke. The kill chains aren't a joke. Stealing your taxpayer dollars isn't a joke. The irony isn't the message. The irony is just a diffuser strapped to the message so it can go off without anyone getting blamed. But of course, there is the possibility that I am wrong. Maybe I am wrong, and none of these guys mean what they're saying. Maybe naming your company after Sauron's Seeing Stone is just a wink. Maybe it's all some elaborate heel turn, and they're secretly hoping someone strong enough shows up to stop them. It's all just an elaborate series of moves in a game of 7D chess. But here's why this irony poisoning and conspiratoriality is a trap. And Teal's own favorite book answers it in Lord of the Rings. The ring doesn't ask your intentions. It just gives you power. Boromir was a great man. He reached for the ring to save his people. He was good. He had a good motive, the best of the lot, but it destroys him, breaking up the fellowship. And at the end of the series, even Frodo finally gives into the ring. The moral architecture of the thing that these men have tattooed onto their companies is that the will to power corrupts the wielder, regardless of why he picked it up. But then they're on the S&P 500 with more power than any individual person, even states worth of people have. You don't get to look into Palantir ironically. You can't come away unscathed. Every character that thought that they could use Sauron's power against him without being corrupted ends up becoming a tool. It's honestly kind of sad to see people in power hurling themselves down this path. Going back to fiction, Saruman thought that he could use the orb to outsmart the enemy. He thought he could use it against Sauron, and then he just became his puppet. The orb used him. When Teal created Palantir back in 2003, he hoped that he could use it to stop terrorism. That's the stated intention behind Palantir. And now he's using it to terrorize the world. I mean, he sure got me in a state of terror. Maybe this would be a good opportunity to clarify exactly why this company's got me so scared. Seeing what it's capable of, and seeing how these guys keep falling for the ideas that dystopian movies and stories have warned us about, I actually do worry. It looks like they're trying to make it happen. People joke about how they're using these stories as blueprints for what they're doing. I think it's a very real possibility that these guys are going to create Skynet. I mean, if you've seen footage of how Palantir drone strikes on people is terrifying. You should be scared of this stuff. Because this could be used on us too. Or you could be forced to use it in the next war. You don't want to be on the side who's using this stuff. It doesn't really matter whether Alex Karp believes every word he says, whether Teal thinks Sauron is a misunderstood good guy, or whether the whole PayPal mafia Silicon Valley cult is some elaborate bit. But the kill chains and the attacks in Gaza don't run on sincerity or irony. The ICE targeting tools don't check your motive. And more than that, the draft idea he's floating targets real kids, real Americans. Irony is a luxury enjoyed by people who aren't downstream of the weapon. If you build the all-seeing eye as a joke, you still built the all-seeing eye. They picked the villain's name. By their own gospel, they're not using a disguise. They're confessing, which leaves the actual problem. And it's not just them, it's that nothing is meaningfully standing against them. Scroll the replies. Thousands of people, genuinely furious, and listen to what that fury sounds like. Wow. This is hell. No one's happy right now. Overall, it's just completely directionless. Me and several thousand other people are upset about it enough to be making content on social media. So many millions of other people understand that these people are supervillains and they're a problem, but they just don't feel like they can make a difference. I mean, yeah, I understand why people feel so helpless, feel that we can't make a difference, because on your own, you can't. But our frustration is loud and it's real. It's just currently without leverage. The heel is cutting the greatest promo of his life. The arena is screaming at him, booing him, but there's no face. Nobody's getting in the ring to take him down. That's currently by design, and it doesn't have to stay that way. The same way that the mechanism behind these people's success affords them hundreds of people to do their dirty work, to prepare their image, and to put out articles in their favor, and to set up little bots that talk about how cool and smart they are on Quora and Facebook. In the same way that those mechanisms benefit them, people need to organize together against it, because on your own you can't do anything. There's this kind of mechanism that comes to exist in every society called hegemony. I know a lot of people would check out after hearing the word hegemony because it has too many syllables or something. I try to conceive of it as something else, but regardless, these guys have entire suites of assistants and employees giving themselves a media presence. By leveraging the skills of maybe 100 to 1,000 people, they can make themselves known to millions. The energy that we put into writing replies and video essays, sometimes even just wasting our energy fighting each other, it just goes nowhere. Or at least it doesn't go as far as it would take to keep these jerks in check. The current media ecosystem isn't really masterminded by an individual or group. It's just convenient to a sparse group of interconnected groups and individuals. They don't need any of us to agree or disagree with them. They don't even really need us to be exhausted, actually. What they really want most, probably, is to keep people occupied, like we are. Being at each other's throats or so convinced that it's hopeless helps them to do whatever they want the most. So what do we actually do? Well, first, and this is probably the least glamorous and most effective thing in this video, look at where your money is. Your 401k, your retirement, your index funds are almost certainly invested in Palantir. They almost certainly own Tesla. Any number of companies in this, with this pantheon of jackasses, any number of these companies that you don't want your money in, not because you chose them, but because they're in the index. They're making money. And to a certain extent, this is for a later video, that they're metagaming the S&P 500 so that you are passively putting money towards. But anyways, because they're in the index and nobody asks you, they just rake it in. I found millions of dollars of this stuff sitting in funds that I own. I'm unwittingly invested in these companies. I looked a little bit more closely into some of my savings funds, my mutual fund, and they have millions of dollars in these companies. You're likely right now a Palantir stakeholder, funding the thing you are angry about, or funding the thing you should be angry about, at least. Sidebar too, if you haven't had a job before, if you're a young person and you don't have any investment, even if you don't, you should be telling your parents about this. Ask them, where is their money? Maybe they wouldn't like this video. I'm trying to make content that could cater to a wider audience so that more people do know about this stuff. But even still, maybe your parents wouldn't be willing to sit through something like this. So ask them, where is their money? And second, you don't have to silently eat that. You don't have to silently just let them put your money into stuff. You can write the people managing your money and tell them, show me my exposure. Give me an option that screens these companies out, called a screened option fund. Some funds have a screened investment option. When there's a company that you don't want your money going towards, you can ask them to screen it. If you don't have this option, people need to be putting the pressure on that their funds and their investment companies add a screened option. I feel like everybody should be writing a letter to make sure that it's possible. One letter doesn't move a company, but 10,000 letters definitely starts a conversation. And a conversation is how divestment movements actually begin. I'll put a template in the description for the letter that I'm sending to my investment company. Deal it, change my name to yours. The examples I give, maybe you don't like the first one. Just change it up, because this stuff is scary, no matter which side you're on, left or right. Because even if you're on the winning team, you don't want to be on the side of history that ends up using this stuff. And third, and this one that I have to keep telling myself, pick your target. The machine runs on us fighting the people in this big revolving door of America. Like, we're all caught in this big revolving door, elbowing into each other, trying to get at the jerk in the lobby, but we're all just stuck. We're all getting in each other's way. Every hour I spend dunking on some podcaster or writing replies to somebody on Facebook is an hour I'm not spending going after the man signing his checks or the person who's programming the person that I'm arguing against. Like, you can talk smack about Joe Rogan and his fans, and you might make some good points, but he's not the one signing their checks. The people stuck in the revolving door with us are just stuck. We're all on the same boat. So aim past them. Don't lash out at the people around you. That's just a waste of energy. Because here's the thing that the heel is betting on, that the arena screams itself hoarse and nobody ever climbed into the ring. All of people's emotions are very real. It's very correct anger. Your feelings are valid, but it just dissipates into the replies. The ring is lying right there on the road, and the story that these men love so much, the one that they had to rewrite in order to live with themselves, tells us that it was never really about whether the villain was sincere or not. It was asking whether anybody's going to refuse to pick it up. Well, anyways, that's literally an hour worth of talking. There's still so much more behind this stuff. I didn't even get to the Greenland stuff or talk about Pronomos or Teal's. I didn't even talk about Teal moving to Argentina and all the scheming behind that. Like, literally a month working on a video and how much things changed in that time. But anyways, that's all a whole other video. Assuming these guys don't have some assassins waiting in the wings for me, I'll just be back to do that. But anyways, hope to be back for that video. But if I stop posting, check Greenland or Argentina or something.